Welcome back to SwitchCorner. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Last Campfire for the Nintendo Switch. This one is coming from Hello Games, the now infamous studio behind No Man's Sky. Lacking much of the, fanfare and buzz that No Man's Sky generated pre-release, how does this one stack up and is it worth your time? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family and let's get started.
I know how you feel, I've been there, you'll get there, I know you will.
Now before we do get into story, I will be avoiding all spoilers, meaning the absolute bare minimum for setup and story, keeping puzzle solutions out of the video for the most part, except maybe the first few, and then footage I am going to stick to the first 2 hours or so. So story in the Last Campfire was a real surprise. The idea is this: you are an ember and you must find your way through this dark world, basically, overcoming adversity, using this space so it leads to ideas of hope, loss, death, and a whole host of different themes. While I don't want to give anything away, I will say it is actually impressive. It's very much an experience where it doesn't give you the answers, but instead asks you to make, your own conclusions and walk away with your own understanding. My favorite piece though, within each world you can find journal entries. These will either further the narrative or at least the game's beliefs in some way. I like this because the story becomes at that point optional, so it can be as deep or as shallow as you want it to be. Presented though in a near poetic way of writing, I was really impressed, and while I know it won't be for everyone, I found many of the statements, they kind of resonated with me and got me thinking. Presented then in a near poetic way with its writing, and I was really impressed, and while I know it won't be for everyone, I found many of the statements, they resonated with me, they got me thinking. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit more thought-provoking, I think on that level this one succeeds. Gameplay and it's simplistic. You'll find yourself within different locations. You start in a forest location and then your first move it's onto a more desert arena. That's kind of in the first hour or so of gameplay, very much where I'm restricting footage to. The idea though, work your way around these areas and find forlorns. Forlorns are embers like yourself who have turned though to stone. Once you find them, you make a connection with them just by simply touching them, and it places you in almost a small puzzle room. Figure out the puzzle, get to the end and reclaim their soul light to awaken them, which you'll see kind of hidden in a cage. While none of the puzzles are challenging honestly, and rarely was I stuck, I still had fun navigating them. As you progress then with these puzzles, expect extra abilities, things like being able to push and move objects or even use telekinetic powers. Puzzles as well, you will occasionally also find them in the hub world. An early example, I needed a key to unlock a door. It's down to me to go out there and find it. Outside of that, there's not too much else to it honestly. A few characters you'll need to interact with to progress things along. Sometimes that's a conversation, sometimes it's a full-on puzzle in itself. Also, I will say you can pick up items in this world and store them in your bag. These will absolutely come in useful and will become a key part of the gameplay. But overall reach location, save the forlorns, move on. From the story and the overall design, I don't believe this was ever meant to really be challenging, rather a platform to provide something a little bit more out there in its narrative, while still giving the player, something to do that will kind of keep them busy but not keep them stuck for too long. I'd explain it as a relaxed puzzler that kind of wraps you up in its world, and it's the world that's going to keep you coming back, not the challenge. So problems, a couple. The frame rate here is targeting 60, but it's nearly constantly fluctuating somewhere around 45 to 50, never truly locked. These drops are noticeable, and at moments it kind of led to this feeling of, is the game just loading in the background or is it struggling? Down to the puzzle nature of the game, I think they would have just been honestly better off locking this thing out at 30 frames per second than going that variable route, because it does lead to some almost immersion breaking moments. There were also 2 moments when I got stuck in the world itself on a platform and could not get off, and these were 2 separate incidents, 2 separate locations. I had to quit out the game and load back up. Fortunately, I will say the autosave here is solid, so I never lost maybe more than a few seconds, but it's still worth knowing as it's kind of easy in these moments for it to happen to you, as you'll see in the video now. The only other issue, the good old camera. It's a locked perspective, and as is common with this kind of setup, just occasionally you're going to find it's going to get its way into the worst possible angle ever. Typically I found behind a tree. So graphically, it's a beautiful game presented with this cartoon style. It allows for a lot of like quick changes and variety, whether that's in a sense of location or color palette. Really like the character designs overall though, from those that you meet to our little embers. The embers, they almost have this like little big planet vibe to them, because you can see like the woven hood dresses they're wearing, and then all the non-ember characters, big over the top, pretty much like caricatures, but it gives them a whole lot of personality to match the dialogue on screen. I think what most impressed me personally with The Last Campfire though in graphics was the lighting engine. While it's in no way, groundbreaking, it's very vivid, and this lighting, it helps to add a lot of depth to the world and to the image with all the shadow work. I played part docked and part undocked, and I can tell you now, this for me is a great example of perfect visuals for handheld play, where you get that extra dose of sharpness to really top it all off. Great stuff on visuals overall. I think they absolutely just nailed the style. Audio finally, and while it's not up to the standards of the incredible track White Hole from the trailer, it's decent enough. Adding when it's needed, but not constant, as the game, I will say, relies more on its sound effects. I think that's a bold move, but I will say they absolutely pull it off here. It's basically comprised of footsteps for our ember, sounds for it like every single interaction, and then a sound field to reinforce the environment. I'm a big fan of that, so think like wind blowing, birds chirping in a forest location. Then finally, while I wish a lot of the characters were voice acted, sadly that is not the case. It also kind of makes sense given that a lot of these characters we interact with could be like spirits or talking pigs, so I don't really know how they'd go about it. We do, however, get a stunning voiceover from a narrator, and I swear I recognise her from somewhere, but she delivers the mysterious storyline and passages we find with a poetic-like delivery, which is no doubt thanks to the writers, but I can't fault her performance at all. Overall on audio, it's decent enough. The music wasn't quite to the level the trailer had maybe set my expectations up for. It's good still, don't get me wrong, but I think they could have just done a little bit more and used it to add to the experience rather than just simply, kind of support it in the background. Overall, The Last Campfire is a game that's released to little fanfare. In fact, I know a few of you out there was excited for this, and then it just seemingly came out of nowhere yesterday with a surprise drop. This though, after their experience with No Man's Sky though, could very well be intentional, and I would not blame them, because that No Man's Sky launch and ensuing demand must have just been exhausting. This game though couldn't be further from No Man's Sky, a small self-contained world with a mysterious storyline and this relaxed pace. I don't think this will really challenge anyone too much in its 5 or so hours of gameplay, but it's a really nice experience, one I'm glad I went on and one I can get behind recommending. A few issues did hold it back. The variable frame rate just leads to immersion breaking moments, and many will see the gameplay loop as repetitive, which it is. I think you need to realize its mystery is the reason for the visit, not necessarily the gameplay loop itself. And there, at least, the mystery, I like being left to my own conclusions, and in that way it absolutely succeeds. Today I'm giving The Last Campfire on the Nintendo Switch a good 7 out of 10. I was really impressed with this world, but those few moments I did get stuck, the frame rate moving all over the place, it just kind of holds it back slightly. Thanks for watching. Will you be adding this one to the collection? I think puzzle fans out there, you should absolutely consider picking it up right now. Everyone else, I'd probably wait for a slight sale, honestly. It doesn't really add anything new to the genre. It's just what it does do, it does really well. As always then, a big shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. Truly is appreciated, and it helps more than you know. With that luck then, if you're new here, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.